Hello, dear friends. Welcome to our studies on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What a blessing to be with you tonight. And today we're going to be talking about reincarnation, reincarnatory plans, and free will. And here we are, continuing our studies of the books of André Luiz. This month we dedicated our work to celebrate the works of André Luiz. So today we're going to be talking about the book Messengers. Through the blessed mediumship of Chico Xavier by the hands of André Luiz, we're going to talk about some case studies of examples of how and when folks came to this planet with certain things to do or not, and how they did or did not fulfill their plan. But before we get to that point, I'm going to invite, because we're never alone in either plane of life, we have companionship. So I'm going to invite our dear friend Eric to join me on this stream. How are you, Eric?
Doing good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight as we study the books of André Luiz. So now, for us to start, I'm going to let Eric take the floor with the message that he's going to read for us, okay?
And this is from the book Happy Life. Give those who have wronged you a second chance, facilitating reconciliation. Be receptive. They could have changed their mind and realized their error and are now waiting for a chance. We all make mistakes and hope for an opportunity to make things right. If you close yourself off in your pain and want nothing more to do with them, your attitude is just as bad, if not worse, than theirs. Do not let your wounded pride rob you of an excellent opportunity for a triumph over yourself.
Can you hear?
I think you're on mute, Shane.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. There's too many buttons. We are live and there's too many buttons. I was just saying hi to Evelyn as she just joined us. And I was telling our friends to get water. We asked for magnetization. So I'm going to invite everybody to join us on a prayer. And as we do that, as a reminder, we always close our eyes to eliminate some of the outside stimuli. And we repeat the words of the prayer mentally. Shall we? Dear Mother, Father God, thank you for this opportunity of coming together to study the books of André Luiz. Dear God, we thank you for bringing us in this lifetime to get to know of your laws and all that we are supposed to be doing on the earth. Dear God, we thank you for the hours and minutes during this lifetime where we are able to feel your loving inspiration in our lives, guiding us towards self-improvement and service to our fellow beings. Dear God, we pray that these moments together of study and reflection be of healing and consolation, not only for ourselves, but also for all of the spirits that are around us, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our cities. We ask you that we are able to feel your loving presence and the presence of our guardian angels with us, that we may feel loved, supported by you, full of peace and serenity in our hearts as we receive the messages tonight. We ask you, dear God, for your protection, for your guidance, and with your permission, we will begin our studies today. And so be it. Dear friends, Evelyn, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and present to our friends on the internet the book Messengers by Andrea Luiz, and then I'll call you shortly as you bring some of the examples in the books for our discussion, okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
I see you soon.
See you.
All right, dear friends, here we are. Here is the book Messengers by Andrea Luiz. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the second book of this series, where Andrea Luiz, through the blessed mediumship of Chico Xavier, will bring to us cases of his experiences in the spiritual realm. In each book, you're going to notice that says mine says life in the spirit world. It's a little bit of an older version than what you see on the screen. But it's really a blessed opportunity for us to be together. And each and every book could in and of itself be a master's or PhD dissertation, because there's so much detail and so many examples that we can use in our daily lives and learn through those examples and with those who are came before us. In the book Messengers by Andrea Luiz, as we're going to be talking about reincarnatory plan and free will, Andrea Luiz will bring to us throughout the book not only his own self-improvement, as you guys remember, he's living in Ocelar. He has recuperated from his time in the hospital, and he feels the need of work. And then he's yearning to work again, and he's entering in these internships where he's going through different groups, different aid. Throughout the 16 books, you have different aid missions, rescue missions, and he's bringing to us a wealth of details on how life in the spirit world is happening everywhere all the time, not only around the colonies and the outposts and um, the lower zones, the areas of suffering around the planet Earth, but all throughout the entire universe. So it's really way more complex in the spiritual realm than it is in the physical realm, although the physical realm tends to be a copy of the spirit world. But in this book, especially, he's going to talk about some friends who are prepared to come back to the earth, as you're going to see two specific examples. And they had their reincarnatory plans. However, you and I have reincarnatory plans. Did you know that? Before we come to the planet, before we return to the physical realm, we make plans. Sometimes the good spirits make plans for us because we are unable to make those plans consciously, and we maybe experience a compulsory reincarnation where we are taken from where we are into the physical realm. However, regardless if you participated on it directly or indirectly based on your choices, we will exercise free will. We all have a plan. We all have a mission to fulfill. But before we talk about our plan, we want to talk about, why do you think you incarnate on the earth? Why would we care about knowing the reason why we are here together today? Is there a reason why we reincarnate? In Spiritism, we know, based on the teachings of the Spirit's book, and of course, the presence of plans for reincarnation and missions of spirits can also be found in the Spirit's book. But here we're going to use the very real examples of the books of Andrea Luiz. In question 166, the spirits bring to us that reincarnation is needed for atonement and progressive betterment of humankind. Without this, where would its justice lie? And it brings to us the reminder that the differences we see between people all around the world may be due to the choices we've made in previous lives, and or the missions we have decided to accept while we come to the earth. So we may be in a situation due to previous choices, or we may be an opportunity imposed by divine providence so that we can learn, we can progress faster. And as a reminder, if you can go to the book Genesis chapter 3, if I'm not mistaken, talks about God and divine providence. Talks about how divine providence is abundant in love and kindness and provides for all of us all the resources that we need. So as we go through our lives, we need to remember that not only there is a plan for our lives, there is more than growing up, having a job, having a house, a bigger home, bigger car, children, school, so on and so forth. We are more than this physical existence. There's more for us to learn. Although those things are valid and important, and those are means for us to learn. In the end, it's all about love. Love is the glue that keeps the universe together. So we need to know why we reincarnate, and we reincarnate to be better each and every day, better today than we were yesterday. And that would maybe allow us to think about our own reincarnation today, where we are, the things we would like to have, the things we would prefer not to have, and how can we accept and resign to God's will and better take opportunities and better learn from the opportunities that are given to us. Now, the next question is why that you know that you reincarnate for betterment. The question is, do we plan our reincarnations? And I've actually answered that question before. So yes, in the book Missionaries of the Light, which would be the next book in the series, Andrea Luiz brings to us that in the colonies where spirits are in the errant state, in between reincarnations, there are reincarnatory buildings. They're design and planning pavilions. Those are buildings, as you can see by this drawing from Projeto Imagem, where technicians, the spirits getting ready to reincarnate are there with their guides, planning their reincarnations. They can be seen around. As you can see here on the right, they are many different models of different organs. So everything is planned down to the minute details. In the same book, you're going to see the examples of reincarnation of Sigismund, where the mentor is choosing the chromosomal content of the sperm cell that will enter the egg and form Sigismund's future physical body, to the point that that DNA will allow, those genes will allow him to experience, to have the physical body that he needs during this lifetime. So in this place, the plans for reincarnations are drawn up. So your plan for reincarnation, how tall you're going to be, where you're going to be living, who are going to be your parents, are you going to have any difficulties, do you need to undergo certain illnesses, are you going to come without a limb? That's all planned ahead of time. And if we're blessed and if we're conscious and if we deserve, if we have worked for it, we may participate in that plan. If we are not able to, as we see in the book Workers of Life Eternal, there are compulsory reincarnations where folks don't directly participate, but divine providence allows them this blessing. So there is a lot that goes on before we come. So this is important for us to know and to feel loved and supported, because only God could give us all these resources. And then that's important that you and I understand this, so that when we come upon folks who are giving up, they're having a harder time than we are, we can tell them, you matter, you have a mission on the planet, there's something for you to do that is only for you. You are planned. The acceptance of you coming into your family, even if you don't have that family anymore, the parents are supposed to be your siblings, everything is planned and nothing is by chance. So it's very important that we think about those things, that we are, as we undergo and make a self-reflection on how are we working on our own reincarnatory plan, and how are we using our free will throughout our lifetimes to fulfill or not to fulfill those plans. In the book Messengers now, André Luiz is introduced to Tobias, and he is ready to work. So they are taken into the Messenger Center, and the Messenger Center is in part of the Ministry of Communication in No Solar. I remember there are 6 ministries in No Solar. And they describe on chapter 3 these beautiful buildings that André Luiz says it looks like several universities, several earthly universities put together. So imagine the magnitude, the sizes of those buildings. So this bubbling of activity, he says there are thousands of spirits in there. And inside the Messengers Center, they're going to say, here we prepare spirits for their reincarnation. Here is where the spirits are being prepared to transform themselves into living letters of rescue and aid when they return to the physical body. Rescue and aid to the suffering spirits there are in the lower zones. And then they're going to be prepared to spread hope and consolation through their own actions. So as we're going to see, we're going to look, there are many different types of preparation, lengths of preparations, but that's the main goal of the Messenger Center, is to prepare, in other words, mediums and folks who disseminate, not only mediums in Spiritism, but in other religions as well, where they're going to disseminate the work of Christ, the gospel of Jesus throughout. In this case, they're going to talk about the experience they had in Brazil, but that's true for all over the earth. Each and every city has their own corresponding spiritual colony. Therefore, we can imagine that they could also have messenger centers, and then now we are prepared over there. We spend some time. And then the question is, once we have the knowledge of a reincarnatory plan, and then we know we also have free will, and then we potentially chose our the circumstances of this reincarnation, our trials, our difficulties, our joys. How are we making use of the free will in order to fulfill the plan? And right now, I'm going to invite our dear Eric back, as we're going to talk about some case studies that illustrate how free will can be used while fulfilling or not their reincarnatory plans. Hello, Eric. I
Hello.
am going to let you speak about Octavio.
Okay. In this book, we read about what happened with Octavio. He was in his mid-40s, had received an evangelical education. Earlier in his life, he was visited by good spirits who appeared clearly visible to him. And they shared good thoughts with him, full of love and wisdom. But it may not have turned out so well. But let me go back to the beginning. Before that incarnation, he had spent 30 years in No Solar. He was being trained as a medium during those 30 years. Previous lives, he had some debts from previous existences. The plan for him was to have a healthy body, and he was assigned to console other human beings. He agreed to not have marriage, and that 6 orphans would arrive somehow at around age 20 for him. And those were actually people at No Solar in the spirit colony. He knew they were friends of his, and they had worked hard training and preparing for this. And his mission, his purpose was redemption and to assist others. And to the extent that while in his incarnation, he demonstrated self-denial and detachment from material needs, he would receive more support from No Solar. That was the deal. His mom, in his incarnation, his mom was a Christian Spiritist. His dad was materialistic, but he was a moral man. Around age 13, his mom discarnated. At age 15, he started receiving calls from the higher realm as planned. His dad remarried. Around this time, Octavio started acting rebelliously. His relatives took him to Spiritist groups, but he wasn't a good worker there. He did not trust the spirit communications that he received from many different spirits at many different times. He distrusted and criticized them. He thought he might be hallucinating. He went to a doctor, and the doctor told him to get together with a girlfriend. And he did. And around age 20, his father ends up dying. And thus the 6 orphans, as was planned, from his father's relationships and families, were there. But he ignored those 6 orphans. Unlike the plan, the 6 orphans who were his friends from No Solar, during this incarnation, he ignored those 6 orphans. He eventually got someone pregnant and married them. But unfortunately, she, we're all God's children, but she was a lower morally developed spirit. And that kind of made life hard for him. And they had a son that was quite a tough spirit to deal with. And in the end, Octavio ended up with syphilis. He had problems with alcohol. He was too focused on material needs. And at age 40, he discarnated. And you could say, completely failed at his mission. His mission was to help others and to redeem himself from what he's done in previous existences. He had lots of preparation and lots of support, but some decisions of rejecting multiple high quality, loving spirit communications. He rejected them, and he turned to the material side of the earth. And he, unfortunately, Octavio failed at his mission.
Oops. Thank you so much, Eric, for that outstanding explanation of Octavio. And we can think about how difficult it may be for us sometimes to fulfill our plans, right? Well, look. All right, so now I'm going to bring in our friend Evelyn. Hello, Evelyn. How are you?
Doing good. Thank
I am going to find a way to say goodbye to Eric. He'll be back soon. Fear not. And I will allow you to be alone with your next person as we talk about Acelino.
Okay, so Acelino, as you can see there in the picture, was talking with Luis and his friends, and he was telling his story. The general idea is similar to Octavio. So he also spent some time in Solar before reincarnating on Earth. He was planned to be a medium. Things did not work so well, and then he spent 11 years in the lower zones before coming back to No Solar. So he had returned to No Solar eventually, but all the planning he did there the first time, well, they don't say if it was the first time, but the time prior to it didn't go as well. So he had to spend 11 years in the lower zones. And then, so before reincarnating, and he reincarnated in Brazil, the plan was for him to become a medium as well. And he was going to get married and, work with his mediumship. Then he became a medium in his early 20s. He started to exercise it. He was a member of a Spiritist group. and he had, good spirits counseling him and guiding him. But he became somewhat greedy and started to charge for his service as a medium, even though the good spirits, advised him not to. And even the, spiritist friends that were reincarnated with him, they didn't like that idea. But he said that, well, other religious people get paid or get some financial compensation. I'm spending time here. He had, this whole justification for why he should be paid. And the issue was that then he started to be accompanied by other types of spirits. So the environment surrounding him changed. People that came for counseling also changed. So most of them were asking for more superficial matters in terms of, inheritance and, what to do with this and that. So his goal as a medium was not well used, right? That gift of being a medium was not well used, and in the end, he couldn't fulfill his mission. He ended up, after he discarnated, he ended up in the lower zones, and he was tormented and followed by a lot of his, clients, the people that came for counseling, that were, just looking for money and material things. They came to him like for him to keep being a medium, like what happened with this, what happened with this person, what happened with this money. And so they were tormenting him, and he suffered there for a while until he could improve a little bit and go back to no solar.
Thank you, dear Evelyn, for this great example of how another person who had another beautiful mission was unable to fulfill it. So as we are together here, I was gonna invite us for discussion about the implications of having our free will. Let me see if I can return it. In reincarnatory plans, as we saw, we talked about why we come back, that everything's planned. Of course, then it's already given you the answer that there is a reincarnatory plan for all of us. It's not just some random people come together and some random genes come up and you beautifully come together. But then, as we saw on the there's like a whole institution for the whole institution in North Solar alone, just one colony, that is preparing people. And there is, as Octavio spent 30 years preparing before he reincarnated. I don't remember how many Acelino, but I'm sure to be a medium, to change his faculties. Think about some, when André Luiz, one of his missions, he had to go undergo treatment so he could hear more, and he could see more, so to the point that he could see down to the cells and the bacteria and everything. So imagine how much preparation we have to be here. And then I wanted to just get your thoughts about the implications of free will in our reincarnatory plans, and ask us, how are we fulfilling our plans? So if those folks had plans, we have plans. And what happens if we do not fulfill the plan, or what may happen? How can we work on knowing and fulfilling our plans? What are your thoughts for our viewers?
I think we do a lot of things during our incarnation, and we spend a lot of effort and a lot of time striving, achieving, trying to get things done. And these two case studies really point out how important it is to know what your mission is. What's the long-term goal? Not just what's your to-do list today and this week, but in next incarnation. And during your entire incarnation here? What is your mission to achieve? And so for me, it's a reminder to do some meditation. Meditation, sometimes I don't want to do it because I don't want to spend the time doing it. But Octavio spent 40 years incarnated and not really following his plan. And that was after 30 years of preparation and no solar. So making sure you're heading in the right direction is probably important enough to do some meditation, participate in your Spiritist center, pray. I think those could help you make sure you're heading the right way.
Right. And most of us like don't know for sure, right? We cannot say, oh, for sure, I'm doing everything I planned the way I planned. But even in the case of Acelino, like he was a medium. He had mentors. He knew us. He had counseling, direct line with his mentor, like what he should be doing, and they advised him against doing something. And I imagine then, it's not enough for us just to know what you should be doing and then you just do it because you know what is expected of you. Sometimes we may have, we are here with these trials for a reason, right? Because it's hard and it's, otherwise we didn't have to reincarnate. You're just like, oh, I learned. I learned this now. I know better. But we need to put it in practice. And it's hard. And I think we're going to have those urges to go back to doing the things we did before. And I think the best thing we can do is like to watch for the teachings from Spiritism, to know yourself, know how Jesus acted. And we're not going to get to that level yet, but we can still have a guidance towards, what should I improve? What am I not, doing well enough yet that I need to work on? And then I think if we all try to work on improving ourselves, that's at least part of our mission somehow. And because like you're asking what happens if we don't fulfill, well, we get a chance to do it again. And we may not want it.
If you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over?
Right. That's
Now, it's a good point. What happens if we don't fulfill? It may be that we will be given another opportunity. Will it be here on the earth, or will it be somewhere else, even without the resources that we have?
Right.
It may be on as the earth moves towards regeneration, the people who are dwelling in evil, because nobody's has committing crimes and being evil in their reincarnatory plans. Let's make sure we all understand that part. So they will be exiled somewhere else. Just happens in the capella. Go to the book On the Way to the Light. You're gonna see they didn't attune as everybody was moving along in the good. They had to be held and were lovingly received by Jesus here. Some had returned, some are still here with us. And then, as you guys mentioned, knowing thyself is important. And then it takes effort, right? It's easy to just go about, be a human doing, not a human being. You just do, take care of the physical needs. And I think it's a good example of how. Another thing the mentors sometimes say is, if you keep trying something but you just can't get to it, like, well, would you know? First of all, you remember. You can use intelligent sleep. You can ask the mentors, take me back. Let's have a conversation. Let me have my therapy over there. And then they can remind you. If you're not a medium, imagine if these guys were mediums and they could see and hear, and they fail. Imagine us who may not see and have a direct line with Joanna de Angelis or Emmanuel to tell us what to do. And the mediums don't act like they're not puppets, right? They still, the mentors can come and say, hey, don't charge for this, and then you can still choose. And then he chose. The mentor is still there, but now who is being channeled? Who is talking through that person Definitely not the mentor, right? Because the mentor is not going to answer what color should you paint the wall, or which job you should take. But they might guide you, and then you may have that feeling, because the laws of God are in our conscience. So sometimes people feel guilty and they feel uncomfortable, and they just keep trying for something and they just never get there. So it may be that your plan is not there, it's reinventing yourself in a different way. And sometimes collectively we are asked to reevaluate our values. Like in the pandemic, we're all asked to pivot. Is it really important, what the things we were doing? We all surviving fine without doing as much and being all anxious and agitated. So those are good examples of maybe we should have picked someone who actually fulfilled their plan and one that didn't, just to but as an example of someone who probably fulfilled his plan, Chico Xavier. Will we be able to do everything? Probably not, but I'll settle for C or D plus. Because if you come in contact with spiritism later in life, right, you can't take back the years you did stupid because you didn't know. And what about people who don't know of spiritism? We can't. There are lots of people out there who don't know about this, and they're still doing a lot of good. The book Workers of Life Eternals, the book that we study, shows people who were doing other things in other religions who still merited receiving help during the discarnation. So there's a lot of good things we can take from these examples. And those are good examples to know. When people ask about it, we can send them to the book. We don't have to disclose our own reincarnatory plan struggles. We can just say, hey, in this book, there are some examples. In the guy you're talking about, Acelino, who was selling this, I remember having a conversation in a Spiritist meeting north of here in Maryland, I believe, that this person was saying, well, maybe people should pay 10% of their salary to the Spiritist Center. And then we have there are pastors, and they're available to the people, most of all the time. There's always going to be an opportunity for someone to pick up the phone and call. And it's so hard. Maybe we should pay people to just be the present or be the something. And then it just can get misused, and now you're serving only the people who can pay. So that's good. Any other thoughts about free will and reincarnatory plans? We're all doing great. You guys who are watching us, we're all doing great. Just being here, your plan may be just to raise good human beings, or teach the children, or improve something on your life. And
learn to get along with your family. That's enough of a mission.
That is enough of a mission. And then
we have free will, but they have free will too. So.
But and sometimes there is a mismatch. Remember, Sigismundo caused the death of his future father in a previous life, so there will be that in the background. So we may look at someone who is in our family, and as Eric, as you're saying, we are with them. They're going to be with us for the rest of our lives, even if we don't know who they are. There's still their presence, right? Someone had to come together, and then that's something we can work on. Louise Hayes is the one who, about families, is forgiving your parents and acknowledging they did the best they could. Their siblings did the best they could. So the teachings are spread everywhere. It's just for us to use it. All right, dear friends, as we come to a close, I'm just going to invite dear Evelyn to pray for us. Let me see. Is that okay, Evelyn?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll see you shortly then.
So if you can, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Visualize your guardian angel as I say our final prayer. Dear God, guardian angels and spirit guides, thank you for blessing us and inspiring us, especially through these difficult times. Thank you for our mentors who help us, inspiring us about our mission here. May we find time to pray and connect with them, to receive the warm counseling words, and have strength to fulfill our difficult missions here. As we ask for strength, we also ask you to bless and protect all those around us that are going through harder times. They're sick, they're depressed, they're suffering. May they feel God's love for them. May they know that everything passes and changes. And we are here to learn and to progress. We thank you for your protection, and with your permission, we end tonight's studies. So be it.
Thank you, dear Evelyn. Thank you, Eric, for being with us. It's always an honor to be with you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as I'm going to share with our friends, remind them that we are here also on Tuesday mornings with the book Right Path and the Spirit Emmanuel. Go back to this study on the book Right Path. Chapter 2 talks about God creating us to have a very specific mission in the universe. And then at 8 p.m., we also study articles from the Spiritist magazine. And on Sundays at 8 a.m., you can join us on Zoom. We're not broadcasting. We're just meeting for our gospel at home when we study the book Jesus in the Home by Neo Lucio. Keep a lookout for our posts. And thank you, Eric. Thank you, Evelyn, as we come to a close. And God bless. We'll see everybody next week at 8 p.m. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.